Morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend. It's in fall here in Minnesota, so we had perfect fall weather, 50 degrees. I'm sure you all wish you were here. So we got some cool stuff to cover today that I think will help you both in your meetings and if you're doing seminars in your seminars. So I'm I'm pretty excited about sharing that stuff with you. So first, some things to talk about. Our 5-minute moneymaker. One question I often get is, okay, I get that after they give us an objection, we're supposed to GOTS them, but then what do we do after that? Well, we have a tool on our website that tells you exactly what to do. So I think there's 47 different objections that people have, and then it tells you how you overcome that objection after you GOTS them. And of course, guys, what's the most important thing when they give you an objection? To know how to overcome it, or to excuse me, to GOTS them or to overcome the objection? Which one's going to be more important and more effective? Yeah, GOTSing them. Yep. So the 5Q tape breakdown, here's a great example of when and how to empower a client. So 3 times you're supposed to, does anybody know that 3 times you're supposed to empower the client? First time you want to do it is as early as possible. Find an excuse to empower them. Do we know we're going to make mistakes, guys? Yes. So we want to put some positive energy in the bank, and empowering them early is a way to do that. Second time you want to empower them is if they make a point for us. If they make a point for us, we're going to empower them because, hey, they're doing our work for us. And the third time to empower them is if we feel the meeting is getting a little rough. Maybe I corrected them and I think, oh, geez, I just corrected them. I shouldn't have done that. Or whatever it may be. If it's getting a little bit rough, the easiest way to get them back on our side is to empower them. Okay, so those are the 3 times, but this gives you an example of how to do that. Mike gave me a great, very simple tool or a technique that I hadn't even thought about, but I think makes a ton of sense. What he says is he takes the 21 endpoint goals, what you want them to say at the end of each one of those scripts, and he has it on his laptop facing him, and he lets people know at the beginning of the meeting that he obviously he wants to be cognizant of the time. He wants to be courteous and get these things done and make the meeting go well for them. So would they mind if he just has an agenda on his computer to make sure that that we keep on track? And of course they say yes, but then he's able to see very clearly what he's supposed to be doing throughout, and then they don't see what's going on. But you don't just do it and not bring it up. Tell them why you're looking at your computer all the time before you do it, and when you do that, they're fine with it. But instead of trying to hide it into small print, you can actually have it in bigger print on your computer, so it's easier to do. Okay. I want to talk about grit, and grit is such an important thing when we come to 5Q, because you guys have all been successful before you came on to the system. And I found that the hardest thing, 18 years of coaching, guys, the hardest thing to get people who are successful to do is to what? To improve. Because they're already doing well. You're already doing well, so why do any work to do a little bit better? Well, I guess a little bit better is is relative. So you should be able to make $2 million a year with this system. No problem. If you knew the system backwards and forwards, and I've just had more and more people telling me here in the last couple of months that, Mike, this is so awesome because it's like the client knows. It's like the client knows the script. It's like the client knows the script. I know exactly what they're going to say. In fact, Lisa was telling me that she was practicing the scripts with her 13-year-old son, and she was laughing because her 13-year-old son said exactly what she wanted him to say. So 20 years ago, I predicted what your clients are going to say in the future. And if you get every single client, remember, back in 1997, 98, 99, I made $1 million a year with this. This is so much easier today because the people I was working with did not have, or I had pensions and did not have huge 401ks. People have much bigger 401ks now. So if you do this right, you're going to be able to make as much money as you want to make. Now, that requires grit. So a lot of people say, Mike, I get, and this is a book that Angela Duckworth wrote on grit. And a lot of people say, well, Mike, I get that, that you say you should learn these things and blah, 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 but you're different. I mean, how? You can do it, but there's no way I can do it. So she has a test on grit. And I actually took the test, and I found it very surprising. Where do you think I would end up on grit? It's a very quick test, so I'm going to take it for you in front of you. So where do you think I would end up with grit? A lot of grit or not very much grit? Now, I actually measured out how many scripts I know. I know about 50 hours, or that's actually 56 hours of scripts. I know 56 hours of scripts. I'm 57 years old, and I still have the ability to learn 57. And when I do these coaching calls every week, guess what? So every week I'm learning another 1 hour long script. So you'd think I'd have a lot of grit, wouldn't you? But let's just go through this quickly. New ideas and sometimes distract me from previous ones. Somewhat like me, yeah, I would say that. Setbacks don't discourage me. I give up easily, and you can talk to Missy about this. Sometimes I gut through things, but I give if I'm trying to put something together at home and it's not working, or I get an app on my phone and it's not working, guess what I do? I quit. Now, there's some projects that are important that I'll gut through it, but that's why sometimes will gut through, sometimes I won't. Often set a goal, but later choose to pursue a different one. That's not much like me. I'm a hard worker. Yeah, I'd say very much like me. I have difficulty maintaining my focus on projects that take more than a few months to complete. I would say somewhat like me. I finish whatever I begin. I would say not much like me. If I get bored with something, guess what? It's gone. So my interests change from year to year. I would say mostly like me. I'm diligent. I never give up. Depends on what I'm doing, so I'd say somewhat. Sometimes I give up easy, sometimes I don't, so it's somewhat like me. I've been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a short time, but later have lost interest. Yeah, that's that happens to me quite often. I have overcome setbacks to conquer an important challenge. Well, I would say that's very much like me. So my score is what? So where is that on the grit scale? So a lot of people, Dave says no, I was very low. So first of all, Dave, tell me why you think I was low. But everybody else said they thought I was very gritty. So I would say I'm above middle, but totally gritty or not very much, somewhere in the middle. So guys, why do you think I spend time to learn these things? It's not because of my personality, because I'm barely average. It says you scored higher than about 30% of adults in a recent study. That means I'm above average or below average when it comes to grit. Yeah, but I'm below. I scored higher than about 30%. That means 70% scored higher than me on grit. Yeah. So that means what? Why do I? I guess what I don't know either. I probably need a psychologist. Michelle's a psychologist, my wife, but she refuses to analyze me. But I would say probably here's the thing. When it comes to most things in life, I don't have much grit. But when it comes to being successful, I was very competitive in sports. I no longer play sports, so business is my sports. So when it comes to business, though, guess how much grit I have? A lot. So in life, I don't have that much grit. But when it comes to business, when it comes to making money, that's how I don't need any more money. So why do I work so hard when I don't need any more money? Because it's the way I grade myself on success. It's the way I grade myself. Instead of playing softball and being on a championship softball team or a basketball team, this is how I compete. And when I'm competing, I am focused. In fact, I quit playing sports because I couldn't tone it down and was too ultra competitive. So what I'm saying is, guys, I'm no better than you are. In fact, I'm below average when it comes to grit. But when there's things that I want, guess what? Then I'm a pit bull. I will not let it go. So does that make sense? Okay. So the other thing we want to talk about is this is some really interesting science that you should pay a lot of attention to, what I'm just about to go through with you. So science has found that there's 4 words that can double your success of getting what you want. There are 4 words that can double your chances of getting what you want. Any idea what those? This blows me away. I've known this for about 5 years, but I just ran across there was a meta study done where a meta study means they look at a whole bunch of different studies, and compare all the results, and I just ran across that, and it's been proven over and over that these 4 words are incredibly powerful. Any idea? Please and thank you. The actual 4 words are, but you are free. But you are free. And what they mean by that is, but you're free to refuse, but you're free to choose, but it's okay if you don't want to, but it's obviously but obviously do not feel obligated. If it's not something you want to do, it's okay to say no. And they've done a meta-study of 42 different studies, 22,000 participants. They found that when you give people the opportunity to bow out or the opportunity to say no, guess what? They opt in. That's right, Dave. They opt in. Why? They don't really know why. They can guess why, but they don't know why. But as salespeople, do we like these kind of phrases, or are we afraid of them? Yeah, we're afraid of them because we think if we give them the opportunity to opt out, they're going to opt out. But here's the thing, guys. Have you shown people things that make total sense for them to do? Yeah. And then they don't do them. You're like, what the heck happened? Now, and it's even more important now, as compared to the greatest generation, it's even more important now with baby boomers. Why is this? Why is adding this phrase, again, do you see, it's but you are free is the 4 words, but do you need to say but you are free, or can you say the same thing in different words? What have they found? You have to say those 4 words, or you can say the same thing in different words. You can say the same thing in different words, but you have to give them the opportunity to bow out. Why is that even more important for baby boomers? Jonathan says he says this every week at his workshop. That's awesome. Why is it even more important to give baby boomers the opportunity to bow out? Oh, that's right, Nick. Nick's got it. They want to be in charge. Michael's got it. Kevin's got it. They want to feel like they're in charge. Don't tell me what to do. Don't back me into a corner. Don't tell me how to think. So giving baby boomers the opportunity to bow out gets them to bow in. So they think it works so well because it eases the target's perception that his or her ability to say no is being taken away. And baby boomers, do they like their opportunity to say no taken away? No, they do not. It gives them an option to say no. So the funny thing is, by giving them an option to say no, they're much more likely to say yes. So just one experiment they did is they actually asked a bunch of people, and I think they did this like 200 people on the streets in London. And they walked up to me and said, "Hey, I said, sir, madam, would you have some coins that I could take the bus, please?" And then they said, they added, "But you are free to, refuse." So they just had, "Do you have some coins that I could take the bus, please?" And they asked, "Do you have some coins that I could take the bus, please? But but feel free to refuse." Guess how much more effective it was? The exact same phrase. "Do you have, sir, madam, do you have a few coins to take the bus, please?" And then saying the same thing. "Sir, madam, do you have a few coins to take the bus, please? But feel free to refuse." Guess how much more effective it was? Twice as effective. Twice as effective. That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, twice as, we're not talking 10% more effective. Twice as effective. That's crazy. And that's what they found over and over and over, is giving people the opportunity to bow out actually makes them opt in. So use this going forward. So congratulations to you, Jonathan, for using that in your seminars. Now, here's the thing. I love things where if you add 2 things together, it doesn't give you 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, it equals 5. And there's a way to do that, and that is that if you use those, the opportunity, or giving people the opportunity to bow out, but you're free to say no, you're free to refuse, but you're free to not do this or anything like that. But you add that together with the Benjamin Franklin effect. Now, the Benjamin Franklin effect is a very, very odd thing. People are weird, guys. People are absolutely weird how our brain works. Does anybody here know what the Benjamin Franklin effect is? Good. Okay. He found it that he that has once done you a kindness or a favor will be more ready to do another than he whom you yourself have obliged. So what he's saying is, It's more power to get somebody else to do you a favor than to do them a favor. So if you want someone to like you, ask them to do you a little favor. Not a huge favor, but a little favor. It might sound backwards, but studies show that if you do someone a favor, you like them more and want to help them again. It's called the Ben Franklin effect. According to legend, how this came about was Benjamin Franklin had an enemy. He had a guy, they hated each other, but he asked to borrow a book of his. He said, man, I heard that you have this book, and wow, you must have great. First of all, he got on the guy's side. He got on his side about this book. Boy, you must have great taste in books. I've asked several people; they do not have this book in their collection. You have this book. Would you mind? I would greatly appreciate it. I would be indebted forever if you'd lend me that book. How did the guy feel when, even if he hated him, how did he feel when Franklin came up to him and asked him that? Told him that he was better than average, above average. He has a better collection than everybody else out there and good choices. Yeah, he felt important. So he lent the book to him. And then when Benjamin Franklin gave it back, he had a very nice handwritten note to thank him, and he again effused how wonderful it was that he had that somebody like him in his life that had a good taste in books and blah 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 blah. And guess what happened to their relationship? They became lifelong friends. So what they find, this has been again proven over and over and over again. It's weird. It is absolutely weird that this works even better than if you do them a kindness. So if you mowed somebody's lawn for them without them even asking, versus you asking to borrow their lawnmower because yours is broken, guess what's going to get them to like you more? Yeah, borrowing, Susan. Exactly. Isn't that weird? You'd think that you'd be more likely to like somebody who did you a kindness. Now, they're not saying that people don't like you when you do a kindness. Are they saying that? No. But they are saying it's more effective to get something. That's why, think about this. I want everybody answer this. Anybody who has given, that had a stranger walk up to them and ask for directions, how do you feel after you've given them directions? How do you feel after you've given them directions? Yeah, you feel awesome. Now, I've actually had this happen in a city where I gave somebody directions, and then I ran across them later in the day, and how did I treat those people? Like a friend. It's like we'd known each other forever. Hey, did you find that place, and how was it, blah, blah. We don't even know each other, but I'm treating them like we've been lifelong friends. So use this in your life. If you can get people to do, now you don't want to say, hey, can you drive me to the airport during rush hour? It's got to be what kind of a favor. That's why getting directions, we love that because it's easy to do. It makes us feel smart, and it costs us nothing. So ask for a small kindness. That's the trick when it comes to this. Does that make sense? And if you combine the two, but you have the option to say no with the Ben Franklin. That's what you have now. Say, would you mind? I see that you're really busy. You've got children, and I hate to bother you, but in here, and obviously, if you're just too busy, feel free to say no. But I'm trying to find the Metropolitan Art Museum. Would you be able to give me directions to that? Now I've done what? I've added both of those together. Now, how do they feel about me? How much are they going to fall over themselves to help me out now? Where I've given them the option to say no and told them that they're really busy. Yeah, see, so tying those things together, now you got 2 + 2 = 5. Does anybody not get that? So Susan said she gets it. Anybody else not get that? Okay. So the other important word is because. What have they found out about the word because? We should all know this. So if you ask to butt in the line, hey, do you mind if I get in? If there's a line to make copies and say, hey, do you mind if I butt here? What's most people going to say? Shove off, right? But it's amazing. Again, and almost doubling in effectiveness that if you say, hey, do you mind if I get in the line here because my mother's already in the stadium and I want to catch up with her? Guess what happens when you give them a because? And I'm sorry, maybe I used too good a thing with my mother. Hey, do you mind if I butt in here because my friends are already in the stadium? So not even as my mother. It's amazing because tell them because why you want something to do the because. And it's even better when they tell you because, which is what we try to train you to do. And that's again been proven. Harvard has a big study on that, but it's been done by almost. It's a basic known fact now that the word, if you give them a because, use the word, has to be the word because, all of a sudden people could become more compliant. Now, when it comes to anything we want somebody to do, and a great way to use this is at a seminar. You can use a study done by Yale and using motivational interviewing at a close. And here's where they used it. Now, this wasn't actually this was at a one-on-one meeting, and it was one-on-one meetings with inner city people, and it was at their Yale's inner city clinic. Now, think about this: how people would come, or first of all, people who are poor, how long do they wait before they go to get medical help? Right away, or for a long time until it's an emergency, until it's late, right? Now, here's the thing: if they wait till it's late, do you think there's going to be a need for a follow-up appointment, or do you think the doctor can cure what they have right then and there, or do you think there's going to be needs for follow-up appointments? Now, there's going to be need for follow-ups, and here's what they found: it took them forever to get to the doctor. The doctor does something to make them feel better, and guess what? The likelihood they're going to follow up with their next appointment 2 weeks from now, high or low? It's low. Because think about this: for somebody who's poor, do they have reliable transportation? No. So it's hard to get to the doctor. Are they working one job or maybe 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet? Many jobs, yes. And are their bosses likely to be very open to them taking time off, or will their bosses fire them? Yeah, the bosses are unforgiving. If they have children, easy to get daycare, not easy to get daycare. So, I mean, overall, how hard is it for these poor people to get back to their follow-up appointment? Easy or hard? It's extremely hard. But the clinic said we need to do something. How can we get them to come back? Because, if they've got diabetes or an ulcer on their leg or, chronic conditions, helping them just get over the hump is not going to help them because they're going to be back again when it becomes even worse. So how do we do this? And here's what they found. They use motivational interviewing. This is proven in the journal, or talked about in the Journal of Consulting and Clinical Psychology. They asked them 6 questions. And guess how much of a percentage increase they saw when they asked them 6 questions? 6 motivational interviewing questions. 250% more people showed up for their follow-up. Well, guys, is that huge or that's okay? It's huge. It's a huge improvement. So here are the 6 questions they asked these people, and these poor people, they still had. Did these 6 questions erase the fact that they're working several jobs and they had transportation problems and daycare problems and employment problems? No, it was still there, but they made it a priority to get here. And these are the 6 questions. First thing they asked them is, if you were to decide to do this, and I'm not saying you have to, it's completely your decision. Have you heard of anything like that before, guys? In red, where did you just hear the thing that in red? But you are free to what? Not do this. So if you decide to do this, to come into the next appointment, and I'm not saying you have to, it's completely your decision. See, but you're free to say no. That's an important. So they're actually using that particular premise. 2 totally different studies, but they're actually using it because it works. What would be a good reason to come back? So first question is, if you were decided to do this, and I'm not saying you have to, it's completely your decision, but what would be a good reason to come back? So is that a yes/no question, or are they making the client walk through it in their own words? Yes/no, or making the client walk through in their own words? Using motivational interviewing. Open-ended question. Okay. Second question. Well, how ready are you to come back to the follow-up appointment on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 meaning I'm not ready at all. I'm not coming back. To 10 meaning I'm there, man. I'm coming. There's wild horses couldn't drag me away from that appointment. So the 1 through 10 question. That's making them think what? This is a high priority or a low priority? Well, we're hoping it's a somewhat high priority. Third question, why didn't you pick a lower number? What do you think they're doing there? It's the same. It's a yin and yang. This is saying, hey, why is this an important thing to do? And this is saying basically what would happen if I didn't do it. Does that make sense? This is greed. This is fear. Greed, fear. Make sense? Do you see why this would be fear? Okay. Fourth question. Imagine. And imagine is an important word. I think it's so hokey, but there's so many things that I think that are hokey, but guess what? Should I react to my feelings about it, or should I react to the science of it? No, guys. You got to react to the science. So some of you are saying feelings, and most of you are saying science. If I have a gut feel, well, I don't like the word imagine. That seems hokey. That's stupid. You know what? Well, I'll give you a real example. How many of you guys that watch television? What is the number one commercial on your television right now? What kind of commercials are your number one commercials on television right now? What kind of ads? Nope. You guys aren't getting hammered with political ads? All I see on TV is political. Now, here's the funny thing. Everybody says they love or hate negative ads. Everybody says they love or hate negative ads. Everybody says they hate negative ads. That won't fool for somebody that has negative ads. The negative ads are horrible, and Kevin's got it right. Yeah, and so does Nick. So the feeling is we hate them, but the science says what? They work. So it's just like imagine to me makes me feel silly, but the science says the word works. It's like telling people, hey, don't think of a pink elephant. As soon as I say don't think of a pink elephant, what do you think of? Is there any way possible that you do not picture a pink elephant in your head when I say that? So even though imagine makes me feel weird, as soon as I say imagine, guess what happens to people? Whether they want to or they don't, guess what happens? They imagine. So the question number 4 is, imagine if you already had done that second meeting or that follow-up meeting. What would be the best outcome for you? So now they're already imagining what's happening to their diabetes or their ulcer sore on their leg or whatever it may be. What are they already seeing in their head? By coming back to that meeting makes them feel better or worse? Making them feel better, and they're imagining it. And here's the thing. We've talked about this before. They've done studies with groups, 2 groups. One group of people, they want to get better at shooting free throws. One group of people, they actually, every day, for an hour a day, they shoot free throws. The other group, for an hour a day, they imagine shooting free throws. Then they retest them. How much of a difference is there between the people who actually shot 3 free throws and people who imagined shooting free throws? How much of a very, very tiny difference, like a 1% difference. Because what happens in your brain cannot tell the difference between real and fake. So once they've imagined that better situation, guess what happens to them? It becomes a real thing. It moves them forward, okay? So number 5, why would those outcomes be important to you? Why would those good things, why would it be important to you to not have an ulcer on your leg? Why would it be important to you to get rid of your diabetes and the problems with that? Why would it be important to those things? So now they're what? Not only did they imagine it, they're making them what? Lock it in. So imagine you'd already seen, your diabetes or your sores, the ulcers go down. What would be the best outcome for you? Well, I'd feel better. Yeah, and why would it be important to you? Well, I could take better care of my kids, and I might miss less days at work, and I might see. Now they start to what? Explain why that would be an important thing, and they start to think of the laundry list of things that would get better in their life. You see, this is just a one type of thing. Then they start giving you a laundry list of all the things that would be better in their life. And then the last question is, so what's the next step? And what is this right here again, guys? What are we doing right here again? With this if any, what's the next step, if any? Right to refuse, Nick, right. They're giving them the right to refuse. Because you say, why should you show up for your next meeting then? Now you're what? Trying to lock them in. Instead, you're saying, what's the next step? If any. It's making it that they decide for themselves. Does anybody like to be told what to do? No. We all want to make our own decisions. We all want to make our own decisions. And it's letting them make the decision. So we'll go back quickly to them. Number one, if you were to decide to do this, and I'm not saying you have to, completely your decision, but what would be a good reason to do this? So let's talk about move forward to the next meeting. So if we're talking about the 21-point checklist or those 6 goals, guys, and again, I'm getting report after report after report that new agreement meeting where you use those 6 goals is working phenomenal. If you have not locked in the agreement meeting, make sure you do that this week. But so we say, so if you decide to do this to come back to learn about these 6 things, what would be a good reason to do that? I mean, I'm not saying you have to, but if you did, what would be a good reason to do that? To tell you. So how ready are you on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 meaning I'm not really interested at all, and 10 meaning I can't wait to do this. Where would you put yourself? Yeah, now why a 9? Okay, 9. And why didn't you pick a lower number? Blah, blah, blah. So imagine if you'd already done these things and we already incorporated those 6 goals, those 7 different questions that 7 different techniques we talked about. What would be the best outcome for you? Well, why would those outcomes be important to you? So what do you think the next step is, if any? So guys, this has been not just at Yale, that was a study done at the Yale inner city clinic, but those 6 questions have been asked a gazillion times in a gazillion different ways, and they work. Why do they work? It's helping instead of the client saying, I want to think about it, they're thinking about it out loud right in front of you. So do you ever want to send a client home to think about it at home? No, because they're going to decide not to do it. Because people are always looking for reasons to do things or not to do things. We're all looking to not do things. So, and what does a yes mean? So when you say, do you want to move forward? And they say, yep. What does that mean? Nothing. So do you see why this would help you at a seminar? You could use these 6 questions at a seminar to get people to make appointments. You could use these 6 questions at a first meeting to get them to lock in on why they're coming to the next meeting. So anytime you want somebody to do something, do you see how you could use these 6 questions? Now, we have a different close at the end of our meeting. It's simpler, but it's still pretty darn effective. So some people don't feel comfortable asking them these 6 questions. The one that really gets people is, why didn't you pick a lower number? Guys hate asking clients that question. But we already talked about why that's an important part of this formula. But again, if you skip a question here or there, will this still work? Will these 6 questions still work if you skip a question here or there? Yeah, it just won't work what? As well. But hey, if it works better than what you're doing, then absolutely do it. Make sense? But in our agreement meeting, after we get them to say, they go to say, I'm a 5 on those 7 different things that we asked them about income, protecting their principal, all those questions in the agreement meeting. Then at the end, we say, so why is it a good thing to go through the control your assets process now? What good can come from that? See, that's actually one of the questions from the Yale close, isn't it? Because with this one, it's simpler, but it's still pretty effective. We tap into greed, then we tap into fear. What could happen if we waited 6 months or a year to look at these things? That's a modification of why didn't you pick a lower number? That's a modification of why didn't you pick a lower number? So now we've had them tell us why it's a good idea to come back tapping into their greed. Then we've said what could happen if we didn't look at these things. That's tapping into the fear. And the last one is frustration. Why is it worth your time and hassle to do this now? I mean, putting in time today, it's nice out. I mean, we don't have many nice days left. So coming in and going through these meetings, and then you may have to need to answer a few questions when I call you up. So I may have to interrupt your favorite TV show or something like that if I need you to fill in the blanks. And you might have to go dig this through your filing cabinet. I mean, so it's not that, there are some hassles involved here. Why is it worth a little bit of hassle and time you're going to put into this process? So I've tapped into the frustration. So they told me why, for a greedy reason, they should move forward. They told me why they need to do this to avoid the things they don't like. And they've told me why it's worth a little bit of discomfort to move forward. Does that make sense? So either one of these, the 6 questions or this, is going to help you rather than just saying, so do you want to move forward? Yep. And then what happens too often? Not all the time, but what happens too often when you do that? So do you want to move forward? Yep. And then what happens when they say yep? Does it never happen to you guys? Yeah, nothing. They don't show up for the next meeting. They ghost you. They decide to do something different. I want them to walk through these things in front of me. Make sense? And then there's another little tip that I'll give you. And this is fascinating to me. I had no clue about this. This is brand new information for me too. The newest public speaking world champion beat 30,000 other competitors by using a body language trick she learned from a past winner. Any idea what that body language trick would be? This blows me away. It makes sense after I read it, but it blows me away. Any? Oh, Kevin got it. Kevin, how the heck did you know that? How did you know that, Kevin? Oh, he heard her. Awesome. So let me bring it up here. And you can actually hear her. She gives a 7-minute spiel. And you can go to, you just type in newest public speaking if you want to type that in, or we have the link at the bottom of but Kevin said open palms. Ramona Smith learned to open her palms while she speaks to connect with the audience. She's a high school teacher from Houston, won the Toastmasters World Champion, 30,000 people. In her winning speech, she used a body language technique that she learned from previous speaking champion, keeping your palms facing out towards the audience. Opening your palms conveys vulnerability to the audience and allows them to connect better with the speaker. And you can watch the 7-minute championship presentation here. But I've guess how often I have open palms when I'm speaking in public. I don't think ever. So guess what I'm going to be doing in my public presentations now? Using an open palms. So it'd absolutely be worth watching her and what she's doing and incorporating some of that body language in what you're doing. You're going to see. So the things that we talked about today, are these things are designed to, can you only use them when public speaking, or can you use them with one-on-ones as well? The open palms is going to be a little bit weird for one-on-one, but the closing techniques that we talked about, if I can bring that back up here. Obviously, these things can be used both, these questions or my more simplified one can be used both one-on-one and in a presentation. The open palms is going to be more likely to be used in a presentation, but be incorporating these things. It's these little, getting 2% better at what you're doing will triple your effectiveness by the end of the year. 2% compounded every single week will triple your effectiveness by the end of the year. If you compound 2% times 52 times, that's 286% or something like that. That's almost 3 times more effective. So these are tiny little things. The word because, using you're free to make your own decisions. Don't feel there's no obligation here. These little things will that I've given you today won't make you 2% better. They'll make you 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% better. So make sure you don't just listen to the coaching calls. Make sure you're actually implementing them. Make sense? Good. Any questions? Awesome possum. Oh, you guys have a great week.